Water is about 850 times more dense than air. Then with the speed of the current, that's tremendous forces.
That force means power, and Trey Taylor, the president and co-founder of Verdant, is tapping the energy of New York City's East River. Taylor's bold experiment began in 2002 with a single turbine. The initial results were encouraging, so his team anchored 6 more turbines, this time in the near-freezing December waters.
Probably one of the coldest times in New York, and so it was ice on our vessel and ice on our helmets, and we were living literally in survival suits during that time.
Almost immediately there were setbacks. The tremendous pressure of the tidal water began to break the turbine blades, forcing Verdant to pull the turbines out of the water.
The blades didn't break all at once. One would break, then a few days later, one beside it would do the same.
Taylor and his engineers set about redesigning the turbine blades, using stronger materials and constructing the turbines around a more rigid internal frame.
What we learned was how to better array these underwater to actually get more energy out with even less environmental impact.
In the fall of 2008, Verdant set 4 new and improved turbines in the East River. Their latest design works much like a wind turbine. The tidal currents of the East River propel the turbine's 3-bladed axial rotor, which makes one rotation every 2 seconds. When the tide shifts, the turbine rotates on its axis to exploit the water's power in the opposite direction.
The wonderful thing about tidal power is it is very, very predictable and reliable. You can predict tidal power 200 years ahead of time.
And unlike ocean power, where generators are often anchored miles offshore, Taylor makes his power at the very heart of a population center.
Our desire is to build plants, for the most part, right into the local distribution grid, bypassing the transmission system.
Right now, the electricity generated from each 35-kilowatt tidal turbine is powering a nearby parking garage and grocery store.
So everything we're designing is keeping local resources in mind. What we want to be able to do is create cost-affordable systems that villages and communities from all over the world can apply to their waterways.
Within a year, Verdant hopes to install up to 30 turbines in the East River.
The beginning of having perhaps as many as 300 turbines in the East River. But keep in mind, this is just one reach. There could be other pockets all around New York City and certainly the New York State producing power in this manner.
Electricity generation is not the only source of greenhouse gases. Transportation accounts for 1/3 of global warming pollution. This is why developing clean transportation alternatives is also crucial for our planet's survival.
Certainly, you couldn't say biofuels are going to cure everything. But can biofuels be a key player? Yeah, it can make huge difference. Billions of gallons worth of difference.
Jack Newman is co-founder and head of research of Amyris Biotechnologies, a Northern California biofuels company. As a scientist and environmental activist, Newman and several colleagues found a way to help save the planet without leaving the lab.
We determined early on that we could make a killer diesel product in a microbe. It'll work in today's diesel engines. It's got all the power and torque that you need, and it can reduce greenhouse gases by up to like 80%.
Newman's journey began in 2003 in the chemical engineering lab at Berkeley, where he and 2 friends discovered a way to genetically modify yeast to make medicine.
We started making an anti-malarial drug very, very inexpensively, and then it was, geez, what else can we make? And what other things could have a really big impact in the world?
The ambitious trio formed Amyris with the goal of making a biofuel from the same microbiological process.
A reprogramming of the chemical root that exists within yeast. Plants make a hydrocarbon-based covering on their leaves so that water doesn't get inside. And by taking some of the programming from plants and putting it into a yeast strain that's really good at making ethanol, you can get a yeast strain that's really good at making a hydrocarbon. We build on improvement. We'll take probably the last strain that was pretty good at making diesel and try to put the next idea into it via DNA to make the next generation of strain.
Each of these colonies here corresponds from a single cell. That single cell ideally has the change that we believe we've made.
And from that colony, you can grow up a liquid culture. Basically just put it into sugarcane juice.
What we're seeing is the relative size here of the production strain of yeast, all of these small spheres here. These larger spheres are accumulated fuel.
Once you get a hit, something that's better, then you move into a fermentation tank that's, about the size of a bread box. That idea that you had, manifested through DNA and expressed in yeast, ends up turning sugar into fuel.
Well, this is our fuel, and this is petroleum diesel fuel. There are more impurities in this one than in this one. That's a much purer product.
Corn ethanol has captured the lion's share of federal subsidies in the U.S., and vast tracts of land have been diverted from growing food to growing corn for ethanol. But it has distinct drawbacks.
We quickly came to see that it was not a good idea to be burning food to make energy.
Newman and his team use Brazilian sugarcane to make their fuel because it is the most efficient and inexpensive feedstock currently available. They are partnering with a Brazilian company to build their first large-scale biorefinery.
There was an entire infrastructure built out around making billions of gallons of fuel in Brazil.
Already, Amyris is producing fuel in its new pilot plant. And by 2010, they hope to be able to produce fuel on a scale that can compete with traditional fossil fuels at less than $2 a gallon.
To actually have a hit that gets you to production scale, you just pinch yourself. It's amazing when it works. Science is amazing when it works.
Coming up next, making fuel with enzymes found in the most extreme places. And the ultimate green sports car.